Okay, so what makes me even remotely qualified to talk about this topic? Well, a year ago, today in fact, I began doing the quintessential diet of today. Reduce your calories, eat 5 times a day, and do exercise. So um, that went well for about 3 months. I was 121 kilos and I dropped around 4 to 5 kilos of water immediately, and that took me down to about 116. And then for the next 3 months, I lost 4 kilos. And you should be losing about 2 pounds a week or a kilo a week. Well, it wasn't happening. And I thought, well, if I reduce calories further, but then I started getting hangry and hypoglycemic and just wasn't working. I was just irritated, hungry, and then I would eat probably more than 5 times a day. And I thought, oh, well, if I eat a few peanuts here and there, and you know, I did the licuado in the morning, and that was oats and what they call woutly. I can't remember the English word for it right now. It's a little grain, really light and fluffy in little circles. If it comes to me, amaranto, and banana, of course, had to be in there. A little bit of sugar, some chocolate, peanut butter or peanuts. All right, so this was a really ground up, extra special glycemically indexically food. So, I mean, I'm sure my insulin went to like 300 or whatever. I don't know. I'm kidding. And then I had the apple for a snack, and then had dinner, and I made sure everything was the size of my hand because your hand apparently is one serving. So my meat was one handful, my rice was the one handful. Anything else I had, of course, I had two tortillas instead of, 4 or 5, maybe 6. I love tortillas, especially in Mexico. The ones that you buy commercially, either here or in the United States, the only two places that I know make these this way. They taste like gummy, like wak yakala. I didn't like them when I first had them because I never had real corn tortillas, just the corn tortillas of rubber or the hule. And so about May 15th, this Dr. Berg fella pops up on my YouTube, and he's like, keto and intermittent fasting. So I think I did keto first, and I broke off of sugar, and that was quite a challenge. I got sick. I had dry heaves. I sick to my stomach, 2 massive headaches, and then I went to intermittent fasting, and I think I had one more headache with that till I learned just take a pinch of salt, put it under your tongue, and that was it, man. Holy remedy, santo remedio, right? And so I wound up losing the last 11 kilos in 3 months. So I dropped a total of 20 to 21 kilos in a year, obviously with that 6 month plateau, depression. Really, I was crying constantly. The whole year and a half of nonsense that we had to go through. And then once I got on keto, I had learned later from Dr. Fung that your insulin levels just fall, just drop off, goodbye. And with that, and before that, I was actually telling my wife, I'm really confused, I'm nervous, I'm worried. What is wrong with me? Am I suffering from like the preliminary to Alzheimer's? I got scared. And then, like I said, I started keto and intermittent fasting and found out from Dr. Fung that you drop your insulin. Your blood sugar then is only created by the liver when it needs it, and you're not really required to eat any carbohydrates whatsoever. There's no essential nutrient there. Essential is amino acids and fatty acids, yes. And the liver will take the proteins and create glucose when you need it. And it will keep your blood full of glucose, but it will also burn off a lot of fat. So my visceral fat is almost zero now, and my whole body is like restructured. It's weird. it feels thin, lean, and muscular. I mean, I haven't lost any power, not even in the least. And I don't mean to preface it here with this first 5 minutes or so of the video, but I just wanted to kind of let you know where I've come from. I have probably got more than a college education in nutrition after watching Fung, DeLauer, Berg. I followed 2 other European dudes. The Diet Doctor, I think he's out of Canada, but it was started by a bloke from Sweden. So here, let's talk about the Mexican Plato del Bien Comer. It means the good eating plate. I mean, so instead of the triangle now, they have separated essentially into thirds: fruits and vegetables, legumes, which are beans and seeds and things, animals, and breads. Okay, that would be pastas, starches, potatoes. So let's talk about this a little bit. According to what I have seen, things that will raise your insulin are fruits. So if you're starting out or you've been doing this for a while, this is ridiculous. I would totally cut fruits out, except for going easy on strawberries and any of the dark berries, blueberries, but no grapes, no apples. Guava has a glycemic index of 12. That would be the maximum fruit I would eat, and I would just eat the skin. That is, there's 2 parts of this. Kind of a skin. It's thick. It's about maybe 3/4 to a 1/2 inch thick, and then it's got this batch of seeds in it. I wouldn't eat those. Those are really sweet, but the rinds have plenty of fiber. Apples, if you're going to eat an apple, make sure you eat it from the rancho. Do not get the Golden Delicious and all these other brand named apples, because they are genetically modified. That is, they don't inject them with things. They just splice different trees together, and through botany and stuff, they've been able to make things sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, especially not that watermelon. If you had seen a watermelon from a couple of 100 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago, it looks nothing like it does today. It had plenty of fiber, and you could probably get away with eating it. Now, in the vegetables, there, verduras, tomatoes are fine because you make sauce out of that. The tomatillos, those are the little green ones there, next to the broccoli. Celery is fine. Any of your leafy, above ground vegetables are delicious. Even iceberg lettuce, although it's not very nutrient dense. But I eat romaine. I'm going to kind of look up what kale looks like again. I may have eaten it, I don't know. Carrots sparingly. Chilies, all you want, because trust me, you won't be able to eat enough before you are spiced out. Artichokes and whatnot. Now, what I don't see here are avocados. And then those little flowers are calabaza flowers. Those are squash flowers. You can eat those. You can eat squash. That is the zucchini type, the Mexican squash I like. And cucumbers are fine. Radishes are delicious. But I don't see avocados here, and that's sad. I should see an avocado. Oh, well, they're really high in fat. Well, I don't want to get into it, and I'm not going to get all tribal, but fats are not going to be what your problem is. Cereals, I would completely eliminate them entirely, if you can. Definitely refined sugar. Say adios to that nonsense. No more sweets, candies, chips. Anything that has a barcode on it, do not even bother. I have a bread culture that I've had alive here for almost 4 years. That is a native bread. It has lactobacillus and it has yeast. The yeast will consume quite a bit of the starch, creating carbon dioxide and alcohol. And the lactobacillus, from what I understand, I'll reread this, I may be off, but as far as I know, I think they eat some of the proteins. So they will eat the gluten. So it's not a very high gluten bread, and it's not a very high starch bread. Of course, everything in moderation. The unfortunate thing is that I do use steel milled flour for the bread, where in the old days we probably would have had a pretty rough looking ground bread, all right? But there's nothing to be saved here in cereals. You want to stay from seed oil, away from seed oils and all that. Matter of fact, I don't even see fats. they don't even include fats here. So apparently the only fats you're going to get are over in the animal origins there. You're going to get them in your beef, fish. They have omega-3s. Those are awesome. Cheese, I would chill out on the milk just because of its sugar content. Milk contains lactose and I believe a little bit of casein. So does the cheese, but that's coagulated. And again, you can't eat enough of these things to actually, before you're satiated, you're not going to be able to eat enough to actually hurt yourself. Now, I'm not talking to diabetics and all that. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to diagnose or any of that nonsense. I'm just me being me, sharing what worked for me. Chicken's great. Eggs, you can eat a ton of eggs. That's not a problem. You'll have to look up the studies on your own. I know people say, oh no, fats are bad for you. Well, that's fine. Then stay hypoinsulinemic and be confused and brain fog and tired and take naps all the time. Weird. I wake up in the morning. I don't even take a nap. I don't even feel great. Like right now, I don't know how. I think let's see, 6, 8, 18. I ate 24 chicken wings, 12 whole wings, including the little tip. And I dunked it in Frank's Red Hot, mounted with butter and some ranch dressing that I made out of whole egg mayonnaise and cream with some spices and some salt and apple cider vinegar. All right. I don't know if you've ever sat and eaten 24 chicken wings. Oh, and they were baked, not fried. All right. With salt, pepper. And then I had a bunch of pork rinds. And at the very end, I did decide today we made this corn cake. It's elotes corn, so it does have a fair amount of carbs. But a little square of that with some peanut butter on it and my glass of milk. Right now I'm fully into keto. My body will switch back and forth from glucose to fat overnight. I don't even notice it. I don't notice the transition. And all that food, I mean, my stomach, I'm full. I have no cravings. I have no desires. I'm not groggy in the least. I mean, if you said, hey, we have to take a 20-mile walk, I'd be like, okay, when do you want to get started? Let me get my hat, throw a little bit of sunblock on. Not a lot, because I do want the vitamin D from this delicious sun we have down here in Mexico. So I concentrate in that little triangle to the right: fish, eggs, sardines, tuna, cheese, meat, pork. Funny, they don't put pork there either. This plate really irritates me because of what they don't have on it. And that's probably a full third to about half of my diet. Another quarter to maybe, I'd say 3/4 would be above ground leafy vegetables, including cucumbers, radishes, green beans, cauliflower, broccoli. Okay, they have a lot of oxalates, so you have to drink a lot of water to make sure your kidneys don't get loaded down with crystals. Tomatoes are fine. I stay away from all the cereals then. Potatoes, below ground starches, although a starch is a string of glucose molecules. At least it doesn't have fructose. And I eat almost zero fruits. Now, olives do not belong there in the fruit category. Olives, I know they're biotanically a fruit, but they are absolutely, they don't have much fructose, if any. Since I don't like them, I didn't look it up. But I do hear that a lot of keto people eat a lot of olives. So I would imagine that's not a bad thing. And again, I don't see olive oil here. I don't see lard. I don't see butter. And I don't see tallow. Tallow's beef fat. Those 4 fats are absolutely wonderful. All right. And it says combina. So you combine all these things and you have a quote unquote well-balanced meal, which will make you crazy. So what are some of the things that have happened to me since I decided not to eat this ridiculous plate? I have lowered my blood pressure from 140/95 to an average of about 110/55. My resting heart rate in the morning is 55 beats per minute. I can take a walk. I can walk for several miles. I fast constantly. I have lately been doing one meal a day, just because I'm not hungry for what we call cena here, which we'd normally eat about 8 p.m. And I've really just, I hadn't eaten breakfast for a long, long time. I drink a fair amount of coffee, maybe somewhere between 350 and 700 milliliters a day. That's about 3/4 of a quart. And then I just kind of grab the meat that I want, eggs, cheese, spices, and a lot of times in my first cup of coffee, I'll use powdered ginger, powdered turmeric, or curcumin, and I will use maybe some clove, and I will drink a little bit of cinnamon about an hour before I eat. It's an insulin imitator, so my body already thinks it's got some insulin going, and it doesn't secrete quite as much. So that's kind of how I work it, and it's been just wonderful for me. And I will be getting back on my bicycle, and I'm sure that will cook off the rest of my fats. Little pro tip here. I went on vacation to almost 8,500 feet. It was 8333, literally 100,000 inches above mean sea level. And I decided to fast the night before, so I had eaten at 2 o'clock the day before. And by the time we struck out in the morning, about 9 or 10, after everyone had loaded up on all their carbs and breakfast foods and donuts and juices and this and that, we struck out about 10 o'clock. And I was just like, I mean, I was already fasting for 20 hours. And like 2 hours in, everyone's like, oh, I'm so tired. And we need to rest. And I'm like, rest where? What? No, man, get up. Walk. Well, it turns out I wound up making pizza that day. I have a short on my other channel, just Thomas Hughes. I made a Detroit pizza, and I didn't wind up eating till like 5 o'clock. And I primed myself by eating some eggs, and then I went ahead and ate a couple pieces of pizza. Not a big deal. Again, now in these extended fasts, yeah, you wanna refeed gently. I use bone broth, and then I'll go in on some lean protein like chicken, and then maybe for the next meal that I have 4 hours later or so, I still stay away from the real heavy above ground vegetables for just that day, because they are rather difficult to process even with the best stomachs. We are not cows after all. We are carnivores-ish. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to talk about the fact that Mexico probably adopted this nonsense because they never used to eat all of this trash. And when they did, they definitely ate it in moderation. They were not eating 5 and 6 times a day. I remember in the 90s, Mexicans were very thin. I'm like, how are these people so thin? Turns out, when I did my best on my diets, I actually had intermittent fasting as part of my regimen. Now, once a month or every other month or so, I'll do a 72-hour fast. And those are just wonderful. Again, if you have issues or whatever, do go with your doctor. I don't know what they're going to know about this. You can play him my video, and he'll probably say the guy's a real big idiot. That's fine. I mean, I'll stay thin and live till 100 some odd. And, well, I can't tell the rest of the people what they're going to do with hyperinsulinemia. Eventually, the blood sugar catches up. By the time they find out you have high blood pressure, you've already been type 2 for probably 15 years. You're already destroying your liver and punching holes in your kidneys. Your arteries will harden, and you will either perforate them and have, if it happens in your body, it's an embolism, if I remember right. If it happens in your brain, it's a stroke, or your heart will just blow up, and that'll be the end of you. About 30 seconds later, you lose consciousness, say hi to Jesus. Again, we're all headed there, I know that, but there's some ways to head there, I guess, more gracefully, less dramatically, less, oh my God, up to you guys. All right, so anyway, just to finish that out, not a doctor, not prescribing, not telling you what to do with your life, but if you find somebody who knows what he's doing, do that. Eat almost no carbs, and go ahead and fast. Adios, guys. Talk to you later.